Welcome to Interdimensional Gummy Bear. Today we are here with Mr. Zach Cardenez. Interdimensional Gummy Bear, just to give you guys an intro, I'm Dr. Robbie Ellis, Movement Doc on Instagram. But Interdimensional Gummy Bear is a place to just have fun conversations, meet interesting people, and maybe even stumble upon some unexpected insights and wisdom, right? So today we're here with Mr. Zach Cardenez. He is the owner and founder of Brick Athlete Enterprises. Zach is a local guy from Biloxi. He is really, from my perspective, because we haven't gotten to talk yet, but I appreciate the sense of branding and style, and kind of, I feel like you have a little sense of that in marketing that's unique.
Yeah.
And you're an interesting guy.
Yeah.
And believe it or not, like, I feel like I can kind of see a vision. I'm like, I almost feel like there's ways I can see a vision for what you're doing. Not to say better than you, but I can see where the potential for kind of what you're doing can go, and especially in this day and age.
Yeah.
And I really feel like you're somebody that is going to do something.
Yeah.
And that's why you're here today.
Yeah, thank you.
But anyway, that's kind of a formal introduction, and just a little bit about Brick Athlete Enterprises, just to set you up.
Yeah.
Really in athlete marketing, media, advisement, representation, and then working towards management, right? NIL deals, sponsorship deals, supporting young talent and letting them exploit the opportunities that are available through the new NCAA rules.
Yep.
Okay. So, Zach, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, my name's Zach. I am a Biloxi kid through and through. Went to Biloxi High and then Southern Miss. Had no idea what I wanted to do in college. I went to school for who knows what, like 4 different degrees. Ended up majoring in communications at the end because my advisor told me I had like 3 more courses to complete to graduate with the major. So I was like, it's good enough for me. Graduated from Southern Miss there, and then I came home. My first job out of college, actually, I was working for the Biloxi Shuckers in the front office doing some corporate stuff. I played baseball in school, so I was like, baseball's kind of a no-brainer. Got into the professional sports world a little bit, even though it's minor league. There's still a lot of big-time people that come through, and realized, like, there's more to sports than what I'm doing right now. I always wanted to be an agent growing up. My favorite show was Ballers, the one with The Rock. So it's a great show. I still watch it on repeat when I'm, feeling down about something or trying to find inspiration. I go straight to the Netflix show. It's produced by HBO, I think. But yeah, and I always wanted to be an agent, so I was like screw it, I'm going to build what I can. And through just networking I'm only 25 now, so I was 22 when I started there, but as a young person networking, I realized like there's a lot of power in just knowing people. And one of the people I met was Kobe Fletcher Vance. He played for the Blue Wahoos at the time, AA for the Marlins. And we met in the tunnel. He was a player. I was just a front office guy. And we just like, oh, nice shoes, they had nice cleats, just small talk. And it's easy for guys to become friends. Honestly, it's so much easier for guys to become friends. Yeah. And we got on the phone that off season, and he was talking about his representation. He didn't like it. I was telling him I wanted to do representation. Kind of just put together a business plan. He retired a 1.5 years ago, and we started a 1.5 years ago. So it's him, myself, and then we have Josh Summerall as well. I know you didn't ask about the Brick in entirety, of course. But,
sure, no, but that's how I was going to get into that.
Yeah, it's really the
Kobe
foundation.
is your director of people, community, and culture.
Correct. He gave himself the title. I love it, though.
Nice.
I call him our big brother. He's everybody's big brother.
Right.
When we bring athletes in, the coolest thing for them is we have a 6-year, pro baseball vet on the team that they can talk to every day. He played at Bama in college, so he knows big-time baseball. He was drafted by the A's, traded over to the Marlins, finished with the Marlins, but like he was drafted in the same draft class with Kyler Murray. So him and Kyler Murray have a good relationship. Of course, Kyler's now a quarterback, but he knows people like that. Lawrence Butler, who plays for the A's, just a lot of the people he knows. Brandon Marsh for the Phillies, just those are like all his best friends. So it's really cool to have that network of people. And yeah, he's the director of people, community, and culture. I call him advisor. I call him big bro. We talk as much as we can. He's 27, so he's not much older. But he also has a nonprofit that he started in college with his best friends. And then there's a third one of us. His name's Josh Summerall. He's our creative director. Josh is a young guy. He's only 22, putting out all the content he can. He just graduated from college in the past couple of months. Southern Miss guy as well. We also met at the Shuckers. So he was a creative services intern. with the shuckers. And once again, he just had some cool shoes on. Sure. He had like off-white shoes, and I was like, oh, these are sweet, bro.
Is that how you make all your friends?
Yeah, I think it's through shoes.
Your
a lot of
business partners,
times.
actually.
Yeah, my business partners are both through shoes. So we just started talking, and he was just a good creative kid. And I was like, yo, I need a logo. Like I had this, I'll tell the whole story here in a minute, but I just had an idea, had him create a logo, and now he's my business partner.
Right.
So.
And where did Brick come from?
So Brick is this idea. When I was in college, to make a little money, I was painting trucker hats. Like I didn't have money for embroidery. I'm a college kid, so I was painting these trucker hats, and I painted the word brick. Me and my friend Nick were gambling. This is probably like, I don't know, inappropriate, but
there's no such
we
thing.
can cut it out. It was like probably like 7 years ago. Everybody was like, oh yeah, I'm bricked up. Like, and we were playing roulette one night, and it was hitting. And he was like, man, brick boys, just randomly. And I was like, no, that sticks. Like, I'm going to take that word. That word just stuck with me. You know, people have words of the year, and that word just stuck. And so I was painting brick on trucker hats. Had a friend who was like a local rapper in Mobile trying to make some music. I painted him some hats for his music video, this, that, and the other. And I had no idea what it was going to turn into. I just had carried the word with me since like 2019. Everything I've done has just been brick.
It's so cool because I'm like a big person when it comes to foundation. Like I really love that concept of also building like a proper foundation. And so something about the brick, it kind of, even though it's not it's usually walls or like above the foundation, but it's still the idea is that sometimes you got to knock things down, build them back up, but it kind of gives a sense of building and growth. Yeah. You know?
Yeah. And it's like brick by brick. It's something all our guys, I saw TJ Jasper was down there working out. He's one of the guys we've helped with some stuff. That's our brick by brick. That's what everybody says to us. They see me, they're like, oh, brick by brick. I'm like, yeah, sure, man. I never said it, but they kind of built it.
That's what's interesting for me with Neolife, because it's like you have to think about a brand and organization in a way where it stands for something that actually you can chase.
For sure.
Like in a sense, it helped. Like that's not you. It's what you're seeking to be.
Right.
Because nobody's perfect, but you want to create an organization that seeks growth. Yeah. And so it's cool because I like that concept of growth, and it's just funny because sometimes one word can really give you a feeling of that.
Yeah, 100%. And it's like, it's weird because different people give it different meaning. Like the athletes we meet, they're like, oh, brick by brick. Then like my dad, for instance, he's like, oh yeah, like when you build a house, you have to start with one brick.
That's right.
You know, I mean, you know all about the construction.
It's like eating an elephant. You got to start with one bite at a time.
Exactly.
But it's like the same concept.
Yeah.
You know, small steps
100%.
equal big things.
And a lot of the athletes that we deal with, like I try to help them realize the perception and the reality is sometimes like, you know, you have to start somewhere. And even if you're a 5-star right now in high school, you need to realize that it's still brick by brick for you. You have 65 offers. How many can you choose? One. You know, that's one brick.
So good.
You know, so that's really where it started. For me, that's kind of a little bit about me. Sure. You know, I've been a Gulf Coast guy my whole life. I actually moved to New York a little bit, lived in the Bronx when I first graduated high school.
You look like you fit in there.
Yeah.
I just came back from New York.
So I was signed with EMG Models, and I was doing a little bit of that stuff, and it just wasn't for me. I thought I was like cool, like, oh, it's cool on Instagram. Yeah. Don't chase what you see on Instagram. Sure. That's really what I learned. But that helped me grow up. I was 18 in New York on my own. Lived with my cousin a little bit, Tony. He's from up there, and then I came back. I was like, okay, I'm just going to stay here for a bit.
And maybe too, do you feel like that helped you model a sense of how you wanted to approach a vision or how you wanted to do things? Because authenticity, we know, is the most powerful thing. Right. And so in a way, like, I feel like that's what I appreciate is like when I look at it, I'm like, I feel like I know you a little better because I'm like, it's authentic to your personality, and it's like you're kind of letting it become what it needs to be. And I think maybe that experience in New York and you getting to see the superficial side of things and the difference of reality versus the Instagram reality, it probably sets you up to be humbled and come into this like with a good vision and direction. Yeah, you know?
No, absolutely. It taught me a lot. It taught me to grow up. Number one, figure some stuff out. You know, you can't call mom for every single thing. And also, Instagram's fake. Yeah. You know, I mean, it's great. I love content. I'm in a content business pretty much, but you know, don't compare what you have, you know, just because of Instagram. And that's what I was doing. I was watching people on Instagram. I'm like, I want to go live that life. Went up there, it was not what I thought it was.
Sure. And now your guidance and advisement, do you feel like it includes?
100%. Yeah. 100%. I deal with guys that, are high level. I deal with guys that are trying to get one chance.
High school kids that really, they are chasing clout, unfortunately, but that's the nature of being in high school and trying to improve, but it's such a trap. And I think the earlier, that's a part of even what I think the work is like you're trying to think about, you become a better man as you help young men become better men,
right?
But it's like that accountability for me has been really helpful, and it's cool because I could see that you really care about that aspect of it.
Yeah, no, for sure. And it's funny, like I have people call me all the time, Josh and I, and they're like, oh, they want to like kind of, I guess in a sense, buy in, right? Like everybody wants, stuff like that, and it's just like I want it to be authentic, like I want to build. When it feels right, it feels right. If it doesn't, it doesn't. So it's just authenticity is huge. I'm trying to teach the kids the same thing, man. You pick up this offer, that offer, like, hey, those offers they're cool, but are they committable? Different things. Like if you commit, where are you at? Like you need to go where you're appreciated too. So,
and there's some of that too, where like even how they approach camps, and that's kind of the advice that I give a lot. And your perspective is important because the social media identity is a thing, and they study this stuff. And I mean, really, we kind of establish our online identity, and we establish who we really are. And I work with in where I'm working with high level athletes that have some consequences for mistakes and how you deal with failure, and all these things matter. But ultimately, it's like I want to say just bringing people to where they have a full circle of perspective and helping them just build their intuition to make good decisions. And ultimately, when it comes to camps are really important because getting in as a sophomore, even if your baselines aren't great, but you have stats and they could see what you ran 40, and even it's a 4.8, 4.9, whatever. Even if you're a DB, it doesn't matter because now as a junior, you can come in and you could show that you reduce that 100%. Dramatically, and now you're running a 4.6, 4.7, right? And then by your last camp, you're basically, if you can get that into an elite level or even close, but it's showing that there's a predictable rate of improvement, even if you're not a 4.4 guy, but you're showing that you're getting substantially faster each year, they're still kids. There's in a lot of these programs, even with me, I waste a lot of time trying to get my size in the weight room stats and my body to look like a college linebacker. Right. And I played college linebacker at Nicholls State. Nice. And so, but that kind of, that experience for me, it showed me that like focus on speed, focus on running, focus on developing your body in a more dynamic way as an athlete instead of being so specialized. And then really at the end of the day, coaches in colleges, it is relationships. And then also when you're being consistent coming to those camps and they can see you and meet your family and get a sense of that stuff, it really matters. And just like you said, you got some guys that might have just a crazy amount of offers, but what's that experience really going to look like? Right. And a lot of coaches are professionals at creating an idea about what these guys are in the family during their visits and stuff. So if you're not really getting to have interactions with these people, when you're getting to see them, how they're acting in season, seeing how they're coaching people, those things matter because that's how you're going to get coached too. And if it doesn't jive, then you might not have a good career there.
For sure. Yeah. I tell a lot of the kids too, like you need to be careful when you go on these visits because the vision they're painting for you right there may not even be it. I have some of these kids, they're like, oh yeah, coach told me this, this, and that. Don't listen to that. Of course he did. It's just like when you're trying to date somebody, you're going to tell the girl whatever she wants to hear.
That's right.
But throwing it back to when you were talking about speed, I have a perfect example. I rep a guy, Casey Eziomume. He's a DB, and he was just at Alabama A&M, transferred to UAlbany, played FCS. We just took him to Tulane, and that's where he's going to be playing for his last year's Tulane, and he ran a 4.7. And he's 6'2", 200 pounds, just muscle, and he was running a 4.7. He went and got a private speed coach in Atlanta. He trains Justin Fields.
He's at Tulane now?
He's at Tulane. He's going to
That's the guy at the top of y'all's, for
website.
Y'all's NIL guys.
Yep. We just got him. And that was a wild story that I'll talk about in a minute. But we took him to Tulane and he runs a 4.38 now. So he's 6'2" and runs a 4.38. You know, 200
'Cause
pounds.
they're developing.
Exactly.
Yeah,
and
they're
he
just
got
figuring
that speed
stuff out.
coach, and it's
And
crazy.
it's a skill. Speed is
absolutely.
the 40 is a skill.
Absolutely.
You could play fast and still run a slow 40.
And he took his speed coach on his visit with us to Tulane, and I'm glad he did, because the questions he was asking the strength coach are questions that I would have never thought of. You know, he's talking about how do you activate the hips?
Sure.
How do you do this in recovery? These kids aren't thinking about that.
That's right.
They need people around them who are thinking like that.
That's what we're here for.
And that's where exactly I was gonna say that's where you come in and just different movements and different activate. I don't think about how to activate your hips. I'm thinking about how I can get you paid.
100%.
You know,
and that's the portion of like too having the holistic system, and that's a part of where I was like, we need to get together because it's like we're really dealing with the same people that have the same goals.
For sure.
And it has to be holistic and how you market yourself and how you present yourself. And really, be honest with you, half of what you're probably doing to help these young kids is what you're helping them not put out there. The money in front of the car.
It's gotta go.
Yeah,
that's gotta
the
go.
college coach is gonna. They're not trying to see that stuff.
Yep.
But a lot of these kids, I mean, and it's like even if they're not into anything bad, but it's just the look of just like
the gas station pictures at like 1 a.m. Yeah, get that out of here.
With the fresh outfit, you can still get clean pics. You do it, you know. But you could do it in a way that's a little more authentic, let's say, or that can highlight something different about you, other than the whole clout chasing look.
Everybody wants to look like everybody. It's crazy. It's like me and Josh sit at our desk all day and just talk about it. We're like, why did this guy post this? Like, what you got? 279 likes. Cool. Why'd you post it though? You know, like, is it because you feel validated because your friends are hyping you up? Sure. Those friends that are hyping you up aren't trying to play college football.
No.
The friends in the picture aren't trying to play college football. You know, you have that money on you. There's a gun on the hood of the car.
That's right.
You know, the cops come, your career's done.
Yeah.
You know, it's
clean
it up.
You got to clean it up, and because I mean, what's funny to me is that we would assume that they have that perception, but even at 25, 26 years old, like your frontal lobe's just coming on all the way.
Right.
Y'all guys are still like coming in out of adolescent into like adulthood in terms of just the fact that your brain literally, it's like you start seeing the world differently.
Yeah.
And so those perceptions that make so much sense to us now, I guess really if you wind back the clock to those days,
100%.
It really is harder to have a broader perspective because they really are, their peer group is their validation.
Yep.
And but also, if they don't have somebody that can help them see that, then we can't bank that their family's always doing that, or they have people in that immediate peer group.
Yeah, we spoke at a high school. It was North Forest. It's a small school up in Hattiesburg, but they have a media class that invited us to come speak. Same thing. I know athletes in that class. One was a kid. He goes by Day. I don't know his last name or anything, but he's a 3-star tight end going to La Tech. And all I talked about, and I kept looking at him, was cleaning your Instagram up. I hope he felt it. You're going to play tight end at La Tech. That's fine. Woohoo. But I know you don't want to play at La Tech for 4 years now in this climate. You want to play at La Tech for 2 years. And you want to play at LSU for 2 years. I was just harping on it. I was like, clean it up. Nope. I was cussing in the class. I didn't care. The teacher was cool with it. She told me what to talk about. So I was like, I'm going to make sure I drive it home. And the kids, I could tell some of them were like, oh, who are these guys? Like, it doesn't matter. We don't care what these guys think. And it's fine. You're not going to play. You know? Yeah. You're just not going to play. But cleaning it up, that's a big one.
Yeah, that's big these days.
Yeah.
All right. So you graduated from USM.
I did.
In 2021.
Yep.
And I've heard in the word on the street and obviously seeing is that you're into fashion.
Yeah, a little bit.
And pretty much it's always been a thing for you, huh?
For sure.
So
since senior year of high school.
Okay, so tell me that, how's that kind of, a lot of dudes aren't really like too fashion savvy. I know I'm not.
Yeah.
I think I am. But I think
too quick.
Yeah. But yeah, like, so what's your inspiration there?
Yeah, so I stopped playing baseball in school after 10th grade, and then I just played travel after that. But honestly, like playing high school sports, we were just talking about like your peers or your influence. It was hard to be different or be anybody like other than my teammates, And I'm a ninth grader in the locker room, I know Mike knows, it's like you got the seniors you're looking up to. You want to be like them. And you're a 10th grader, you still want to be like, and it's just like, I never realized until I stopped playing baseball. I was like, man, these guys I mean, just carbon copies. You know, I didn't want to be a carbon copy of my 25 other teammates. I don't want to dress like them. I don't want to look like them. And I just kind of like stopped playing baseball and explored, what do I like?
Right.
And I remember just trying a bunch of different things. You know, like I would skateboard with some friends that skateboarded. I would, you know, like me and one of my best friends, Tavares, we'd have spray paint cans with like lighters and like shoot like it's just random things. And it all ended up one day, I was just like, I would get on YouTube and I was watching these people like jump out of planes on YouTube and adventure around the world on YouTube, but they were always dressed cool. And I was like, I'm just going to go. So I went to PacSun.
Yeah.
PacSun was in the Edgewater Mall, I was buying the heck out of some PacSun stuff, dude. Some skinny jeans with some long T-shirts, and it just kind of built though. I was just I was kind of a little different, you know, at Biloxi High, and had a lot of friends though. I wasn't like picked on or anything. It was just cool, and that really got me into it. And I started listening to more like rap music, and I was like, A$AP Rocky is cool as heck, dresses well, and then New York changed everything for me,
I bet,
fashion wise, and I realized how ahead of trends they are, you know, and
that's where it starts.
Man, it really changed me a little bit. It took off. They had me wearing berets and different things like that I never thought I would wear. Don't wear those down here, but it was really cool. And to this day, you know, I've mellowed out a little bit. And then when I was in college back down here, I was working at Men's Warehouse selling suits.
Right.
So still in fashion. Right. You know, I learned how to properly wear suits and everything at 20 years old. I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Worked there for like 2.5 years, so still in clothes and just.
You guide any of your people in terms of that, or if they let you in to do that?
Like our athletes?
Yeah, just as far as like even how they're putting themselves together.
Yeah, not necessarily. Like I'm very particular about the guys that we deal with. The guys that we deal with, like up front, they're clean cut. Most of them have clean Instagrams. I'm not, because sometimes you can't help people who don't want to be helped, and I don't have time to sit here and babysit other people's kids.
Sure.
I'm not much older than them. I'm not going to they're not going to want to listen to me. Sure. You know, some of them do, some of them don't. So most of our guys, I let them just do their own thing. A lot of them wear athletic clothes. As I've gotten a little older, I've just started wearing sweatpants and, you know, T-shirts. And
because even when I watch some of your pods with the guys, I'll see some of them with, you know, the kind of dirty high socks with flip-flops and and just like they just got out of the gym, which is fine. Yeah. But I think of it like, you know, this is actually a chance for them to actually 100%. Apply some of that media training and stuff. Yeah. So I was like, I know it's just something that I see, but also I was like, you know what, this is all part of like, you know, the influence people have. Yeah. And I think too, it's like your influence is power.
For sure.
But power can corrupt. And so I think of it, like there's a balance between authenticity, but also putting yourself in the best light and making sure that, you know, that you're doing what you can. Yeah. I mean, there was a podcast not too long ago. I had a booger in my nose and I didn't even see it. In fact, there was a clip I posted and I still didn't see it until my wife was like, first thing she sees is that booger. Of course. Like she's a master of identifying boogers. So she just like, I can't believe you posted something with a booger in your nose. And I'm like, I looked at it and I could see it. And I'm like, oh my God. Yeah. Now it's there. But like I said, there's a lot you can't do. For sure. So it's like you try to control the controllables. Yeah. No, I mean, that's a good point. I don't even think about that. A lot of times guys ask us, they're like, do we need to wear our team gear? I'm like, dude, you will put on what you want to put on. Some of the guys, we've done a few Gulfport High ones. Like they walk off the practice field and they walk right into the weight room with us. So it's like, I'm cool with that. Sure. But I try to, for the most part, just let you be you, you know, like just don't sag, don't, you know, nothing crazy. But even with like this podcast studio and kind of what I think about it, it's kind of similar to what I think and how you're thinking, because like you're giving some of these kids a chance to build into the culture that you're, and it's helping you. Yeah. But it's also a part of now you have something that these kids are probably like, hey, like I want to be on that. Oh yeah. Oh, you know? Yeah. Like that's really, it's really like it's kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy at some point. Like now you could tell there's going to be hype and energy and kids that are really wanting to be associated with you guys because of the way you're presenting yourself. Right. Yeah. You know? No, we get a lot of messages. It's hard. I don't like saying no because you know, if I was that kid, I wouldn't want people to say no to me. But sometimes you got to say no or just don't open it, you know, because at the end of the day, if you're a junior varsity quarterback in 9th grade, You got to
give me 2 years. I usually will, and I'll usually tell them that. I'm like, hit me in 2 years when when you're ready for it.
Well, too, with honesty is always the best policy.
Absolutely.
So you being able to say like, listen, typically the guys we represent have done this, have these stats, or they're kind of in this class. And that's fine, because the more honest you can be with them at a junior varsity point, they actually still have time to figure something out.
Yeah.
And so, but at least they have some intangibles that they can reach, because I always say this: comparison is a thief.
Yeah.
And that's a part of that clout game, because you start looking at it like that. But when you have somebody like that can give you some wisdom and say like, focus on these key points and hit these benchmarks, and now let's like make that your thing.
Yeah.
And there's a story with Dan Mullins when my cousin Richie was getting recruited at State, and there was a tight end that was probably like 6'4", 205. He was a really tough kid. He was just lanky. And Dan Mullins, I remember it was a camp visit with Richie, and I met the kid, and he goes, Dan Mullins said if I get up to 230, he'll offer me a scholarship by this date.
Yeah.
And so the kid literally made it his mission and like literally was doubling his workouts and was like doing everything right and eating like a horse. And he ended up getting up to like 232. And sure enough, Dan Mullen stuck to. And I remember, because when they were recruiting, they were like, that's why Richie ended up going there, honestly, because they were just so open. And he was saying like, yeah, that kid was probably number 4 on the list, but basically I'm going to stand by my word. And he did.
Have to.
Yeah. And the kid ended up being a 4-year scholarship player. Awesome. And he ended up contributing his senior year. He developed.
But you got a school paid for it.
This was the Dak Prescott era.
Yeah.
Yeah, just so people know.
Believe it or not, when we went on our recruiting visit, Dak Prescott, they're touring us around.
Yeah.
And they had Coach Baelius, and Dak was the model freshman that was like going through an example of what the workouts look like and stuff.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah.
And he was a stud then.
Yeah.
And I remember watching him practice and being like, who is that guy slinging? Because he already was super developed as a freshman. But he actually was able to develop a little bit. I think he had a redshirt freshman year, and I don't know if he started until his true sophomore year. Or I'm sorry, so that would have been his redshirt sophomore year. But yeah, that was cool, because I got to watch him on this come up and be around a lot of good. There was a lot of studs in that time. But that was kind of from my experience and what I went through at Nichols, and then getting to see kind of the reality of what I should have focused on, what I should have did, and I didn't have a lot of that good guidance around me. So I felt like that's whenever my cousin, I was able to kind of help. And then since then, I've really worked with a lot of athletes and just helped them say, like, from a coach's perspective, from a recruiting perspective, these are the things that are important to worry about, and these are the things that don't even waste your time. And then now with this, we're able to kind of do it in a really optimized way, where we can actually try to really think about building those skills, build the speed, also identify where our weaknesses are. Is it lateral movement? Is it we all have bias as athletes. And so big thing that coming from the PT world and then infusing that with the performance work, it's really just, other than the fact it's more science-based, it's just data-driven.
Yeah.
Just like the socials, it's got to be data driven. How you're moving and what you're doing, you got to be looking at your metrics, and letting that kind of guide and give you truth in a sense.
Yeah. No, speaking of like the movements and everything, that's how I found you. So I learned about you from Matt Paul. Matt Paul is like my mentor.
Colts agent. Yeah.
Yep. He's like my mentor for everything. And I was having dinner. He's a great guy. And I was having dinner with him and Cole last off season at Buffalo Wild Wings. We were just watching some playoff ball. And Matt was like, yeah, man, like we got to go to the movement doc tomorrow or something. I was like, who the hell is the movement doc? Like, what is this? And he was like, no, check him out. It's Robbie. Like, he owns Neolife. And I was like, oh, Neolife. I know Neolife. I was like, I know movement doc. So I check you out, and I was like, this is some crazy stuff. And you telling me that you had like the Seawolves in there. And I just remember hearing Colt talk about the workouts. He was like, dude, these Seawolves guys are like the most insane guys I've ever been around. And they were just talking about the workouts, and they're like, yeah, there's not much weight at all. It's just like different crazy movements you never think of. And obviously playing baseball at Biloxi High, I know what Colt did at school and stuff. And, I mean, a lot of times these high school strength coaches don't know, a lot. And that's how I found you though. And I was like, oh, this is pretty sweet right here.
No
Movement
doubt.
doc. Like that's a cool name. So
Yeah. And since seeing what Colt's accomplished, and obviously I have a small part in that. I mean, really the work the work that he needed to do to get where he needed to go had already been done. And so it was cool though, because there were some things that he really wanted to prove, and one of them was his fielding.
Yeah.
And because there was just some, how they make assumptions like, oh, like basically his bat's so good that we'll just kind of get by with his fielding. And then he goes out there this year and his gloves are just crazy. Like he had one of the best years as a second baseman in the league from a fielding perspective, which was super impressive. And a lot of that was just stuff we worked on, basics of just getting his center of gravity a little lower, getting him more comfortable deep between his hips, and stuff that we kind of talked about and just was able to. And that's a lot of the work we do that I try to keep it in a way where they're able to disassociate it from the sport, because they're doing so much sport specific thinking. And so a lot of the stuff with the movements, it's almost like they're thinking about it from a different perspective, but they're getting the same movement and action. And then that way too, because I truly think thought competes with sensation. And for most athletes, it's all feeling.
Right.
Once they can feel the right thing, then they can reproduce it. And that's what I would call kinetic intelligence. And we just, sometimes we're only thinking about the cognitive intelligence and how we can think from a language perspective and stuff. Even in terms of using your imagination, there is a lot that helps athletes develop movement, where they can kind of use those mirror neurons, and duplicate things. But ultimately, movement experiences, and you've been able to feel the stretch and the fascial link tension, and then your brain can kind of organize that stuff. So I try to simplify it to that extent and try to cut out the too much talking and more like let the experience speak, and then we'll add context to it.
Yeah, no, for sure. I saw you posted something the other day about headaches.
Yeah.
Okay. And it's funny because I was telling the people around me, I look at screens all day long. So I get headaches.
Oh yeah.
I was like, I need to see what Robbie's got going on with these headaches. Like whatever this is, I don't know what kind of movements we have here, but if there's an exercise for headaches,
100%.
I need it.
Well, it's just the nature of the headache. It's just sitting in this chair and how the gravity in your body starts to collapse to that, and then the low level static positions, and then you go back into straight positions, but now all this is kind of tight, and then the tugging and pulling on the base of the head. That's usually the origin of most headaches, like stress related, or we're kind of squinting and that tension starts to build and spread through the neck. But a lot of what we do to help with the headaches is actually working on the middle of the body below. Like really the part that really is getting that suffering is really the stuff in the shoulders and stuff, in the upper back and the chest. And so once you start really developing more of, like, if you look at a lot of what we do is really work on that. Yeah. And then this frees up the tension and space there. But then a lot of that specific mobility work, that's where a lot of the stuff I've done in the clinic, I found a lot of ways to do it more efficiently with like using straps and belts and like different oscillatory like kind of techniques and stuff, where stuff I used to do with just my hands on a table. Like I have just a lot of other ways to accomplish the same task, I guess.
So all of that stuff you were just talking about, like when you were sitting like this, right? And it's pulling here. Did you learn that stuff in school?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Kind of, if you think about, I was doing performance training. I had a little business called Rock Speed School. Okay. So it was like, basically I bought like $150 ladders and cones and stuff. And it was right when I graduated with my undergrad, and I had a biology degree it was like pretty much like a pre-med, but I still wasn't dead set. Like I wanted to be a physical therapist per se. I really wanted to be a coach, but I wanted to make money. And I knew I wanted to have an advanced skill set that was more unique. Yeah. And I had an aunt that was a PT. And so I had something to kind of say, like I had experienced seeing that, but my vision was like, I wanted to be both. Yeah. Like I wanted to work in high performance, and I wanted to be able to also help people with like problems. And really when it comes down to it, I knew if I was going to be the best I need to understand the body and its capabilities and from a deeper level. And so PT school is really like a combination, I would say, like engineering principles, where you're just thinking about physics and the principles of leverage and stuff like that. And then that's really, once you understand the body from the sense of like, it's kind of like pulleys and levers and origin and insertions, then it kind of goes a little deeper. And then for me, it's grown to where the myofascial system and understanding how you distribute force through the body, it's really based off of the movements that we really do and not the positions. Yeah. So what I've learned is most of the time, even people that are doing things for fitness and health, if you just tweak up, so even if you're exercising, let's say 3 times a week or 4 times a week, whatever, like even if you got twice a week, but what you do during that time, just small tweaks, instead of doing like your rows and like super square positions, doing it single arm and then letting your body actually rotate, is just allowing your spine and the connective tissue to express itself more in line with what your movement looks like.
Yeah.
Not the position of standing. So typically you're going to have less pain because because a lot of those muscles that control the little pieces of the spine are the deepest. So when you're stimulating those rotational functions, because it's like gait, walking is really, think about it, without that, we can't do anything, right? So just from a basic human perspective, when you were a baby, everything started off because you're like, I want to get that. And it's like, how do I get over there? Mm-hmm. You know, and it's like a bunch of accidents that are just these reflexes that eventually we learn to control. And so just because we get older, that's still the way that we develop movement as adults, and that's the way we lose movement. We almost, the same ladder we climb up, we kind of fall down. And so a lot of elderly conditions that you see in Parkinson's and neurodegenerative conditions that you see a regression almost in the exact order that they came on. Wow. Is the way they kind of start falling off. Yeah. So the way I've always helped those people is literally start to figure out how to build them back up that ladder in reverse almost. And then even with the babies, that's been able to see where they're getting stalled out at and helping them get to the next milestone to the point that they're able to be independent and walk and do normal stuff. And so that's the same methodology I've used to help athletes. It's the same nervous system guided approach where I'm really trying to see if we can make effective change to the brain, that's permanent.
Right.
But that's also not something you can experience, like hypertrophy in a muscle. And it's like, oh, my biceps, I can see that and I feel it. And it's like, it's there. But when you're thinking about these movement patterns, they're ingrained in us. We're not expressing them unless, now martial artists, they express them more often because they're like, nowadays you see guys have to be southpaw and orthodox.
Right.
So now they're getting an expression of rotation to both sides because all of our bodies are twisting based off of our bias. And I learned a lot of this in like cadaver labs where we would you study and look at this stuff. And when you go to these cadaver labs that I deal with, it's all non-embalmed bodies. So you're getting to see the soft tissue that gets dissolved with the embalming process. So most medical schools that do that, it's all embalmed bodies. So this is very specialized. It's hard to get in those classes, but they offer them through anatomy trains. But it's a week-long intensive, like 8-9 hours a day. But what I've learned post-grad and since I've been practicing and doing these things is that every human body is just in the problems that exist within the body, whether it's from the neck to the shoulder, it all starts with a foundational twist.
Yeah.
And it can be as simple as you're right-handed, so you're always reaching and turning this way, but over your life, that turns into a uniform twist.
Yeah.
And you could find it all the way up the chain. And so with athletes that are always going right to left, right to left, right to left, you'll find that it's the same things. And you get these tone imbalances where the body's just trying to regulate itself, but it's hard when you have this twist that gets really off. And so a lot of what I'm doing, honestly, is just simply trying to untwist everything to where there's a resting tension that's just more in the middle. Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah, it's a lot.
That's crazy.
And that's a lot.
Like,
I know that's like drinking through a fire hose. I know. But once I get going,
that's really cool though, because I never think I'm right-handed, so I never think about the amount. I was just thinking when you were talking the amount of times I've turned, like with my right hand in my life.
Yeah,
I probably did it like 20 times.
And think of the difference between sides, even brushing your teeth.
Yeah,
but it's a brain thing.
Yeah.
So now let's say you just start brushing your teeth with the other hand. It's like, wow, I'm not really uncoordinated with this.
Yeah.
But once you actually figure that out, but also what'll happen as soon as you check out,
you're back in.
You're back in because it takes deep awareness to notice your body's tendencies. And that's I'm in that weird space of just like, of noticing the stuff that most people it really has no reason to be important to them other than the fact that like the body's always communicating. And most of the time in helping people, I've learned that what they say and what the body's telling me, it doesn't always match. And if I can get it to match to where the story we're telling and then what the body's saying is the same, then normally they're going to get better.
Yeah.
I feel like our capacity to heal and our bodies are like regenerating machines. We just got to create conditions where they got a chance to do that.
Yeah. That's pretty sweet.
It's cool, huh?
That's pretty sweet, yeah.
Yeah, but that's the thing. What I do is it's a lot deeper, and my practice is just a culmination of my experiences, kind of like with you. And I never wanted to funnel myself to be like anything I saw, because there was a lot I respected from my experiences in clinics and seeing different practices and seeing how people did things. But I always could find the pattern to see also where the value stopped.
Right.
And so I'm like, does it have to? And most of the time it doesn't. But people like saying, they like having the label in the box. And one of the biggest frustrations I think people have with me and Movement Doc is that it's really a lot deeper. It's really about mental, emotional, spiritual health.
Yeah.
But it's movement.
Right.
So people want to say, you're a movement guy, right? And it's, if you want me to be that, but what dictates movement? It's the brain.
Yeah.
And also when you start to create balance in the body, I feel like you really open your mind, because you're sending energy to bigger aspects of your brain. And once you do that through your movement in your body, then I feel like you can experience it in emotionally balance, spiritual balance, and in your physical health. Part of that is your perception of yourself.
Yeah. So
if your perception of yourself is that you're weak and broken, guess what? Your body, there's going to be a mirror, But if you have, even with a lot of what you're talking about with like how you built your image, it's like you got to build your image of yourself. And some of that, you might have to fake it till you make it a little bit. But as long as you're taking actions to fill that gap,
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's pretty sweet.
Yeah. I didn't mean to take over the thing.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I asked you the question. That's pretty sweet. Yeah.
That's what you get for asking me a question.
No, dude, I have plenty of questions. That's awesome. I was just sitting here thinking the whole time you were talking. I was smiling, trying not to smile too much.
Right. But that's why I said the interdimensional gummy bear, the goal is to help people encounter unexpected insights and wisdom. And I've always really thought, like, to me, do we really know that we're at the tip of the spear? Or is there a point in time where our ancestors actually had things figured out in a way that actually was healthier, maybe mentally, physically? And I've always thought, like, what are we actually designed for based off of what we're actually doing?
Yeah.
But to do that, you got to look at 100,000 years of human existence. And you got to remember that we're like this little fragment at the very tip of that.
Right.
But also, as we've gained a lot, for everything you gain in life, there's a compromise.
Yeah.
And so I just think it's good to just have a higher level of awareness to just be able to notice things. And normally that's the skill I find that helps people. It's just like the skill of awareness is actually the skill of just basically noticing. You're just noticing things. And then now you have a choice to say, I want to maybe change that, or I'm good with that. I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, keep it simple.
Is this your first time being a guest on a podcast?
Yeah, I've been on some radio shows before, but a podcast, I've had to host everything.
Well, it's an honor.
That's what I was telling them. I was like, this is probably going to be good for him because he's always on this side.
Yeah.
And for me, in the past, this is kind of only my second time actually being the host.
Yeah.
So it's kind of funny how
Like role reversal.
Exactly.
Yeah. No, it's pretty sweet. I've done some like radio stuff, but that was just like promotion things. But yeah, podcast. I like podcasts easier because it's not live.
right.
It can be if you want to.
Yeah. Oh, we actually are live streaming
Oh, that's okay.
on Instagram.
That's okay. That's
there's-
all right.
Is there anybody watching? Sorry, we're not acknowledging. Oh, yeah, how many? 2? 4. Oh, double.
Yeah, that's 4 new
Let's
friends
go.
right there.
Thank y'all, 4 people. You want to make any shout outs? Tell me who they are. Oh, number 5, baby. All right.
No, that's awesome. But yeah, I was gonna say it earlier. I was gonna tell you. So, Josh, I know you didn't get to meet Josh. You got to meet Josh.
I did.
He's our creative director. I'm gonna give him a shout out, of course. He's
Yeah.
my guy. But throwing it back to that Shuckers story when he was the creative intern, the reason I built Brick was after that dinner with Matt and Cole, and I was just listening. I was like, okay, Matt's like who I want to be. Like I want to be kind of that trajectory of life. Like listening, and there's just agents can only do so much. And I was like, well, like I'm really good with social media. Okay, like I'm gonna figure out this marketing thing. I had no idea how to do it. And I was like, I'm gonna do it for athletes though. And Brick stuck. And I remember I went in my phone notes. It's in our first podcast episode that me and Josh ever talked about. I went in my phone notes and I wrote like a business plan in Buffalo Wild Wings parking lot. Obviously,
Right
it was
after the meeting?
right after we left. I did it in my car in that parking lot right there in D'Iberville's.
I love that.
It was pretty sweet. And I was just like, okay, like I have this great vision. Like just had it sitting there. It was one of those things when like people are talking to you and like you like zone out because I'm thinking about like I just built this whole idea in my head. So like they're still talking and I'm just like, I can't wait to leave and get on my phone notes. Like
Yeah.
I just couldn't wait. Got to my car. I was like, all right, thank you guys. All right, boom, phone notes. And I was like, all right, crap. Now I'm not creative. Like, Josh is creative. Okay, cool. Call Josh. I'm like, hey, Josh, like I got this idea. He's like, let me hear it. I throw it to him. He's like, okay, cool. And I was like, do you think it would work? He's like, yeah, man. And now I didn't tell him anything about being a creator. I was like, can you make a logo? Like, I'll pay you for
That's
it.
where you started,
Just make me a logo. He made me like 20 different logos in like 2 days. And I was like, damn, like we have all this to choose from. I haven't paid you anything yet. Like, and you already
Which one
put in
did you
time.
go with?
I don't know. Probably like the 8th.
Really?
Probably like 7th or 8th.
Okay.
He just sent me a bunch of different logos with a brick, without a brick.
Sure.
We have 2. We have like the word mark.
Yeah.
And then that's actually my handwriting.
Right.
That's my handwriting
Okay.
on the brick. That
Okay.
was my handwriting from a painted hat. That's like
Right.
my paint, I guess my paint writing.
Yeah.
However you say it. Yeah. So I sent him a picture of my hats and he was like, which font do you like the best? I was like, this one. He took it, digitized the font and literally turned that into our logo.
That's sick.
And the word mark that you see, that's my handwriting from I painted with a paintbrush.
Yeah.
And then the one with the little brick on it, I was like, well, sure, why not? I don't
Right.
really care. Like whatever you think. What do you think? And we sat on it and I was just like, man, like that was awesome. He's like, yeah, you don't got to pay me. I was like, okay, like thanks, bro. Like I'll see you at work tomorrow. You know, I was like, okay, I'll get you some lunch or something, right?
It's an experience for him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, he was 20 at the time.
Sure.
So he's like, oh, dude, like I'll make a logo. I can throw that in my
Yeah.
portfolio.
No doubt.
Cool. And then I was like, well, like, all right, what am I going to do with this? So I called Kobe and we kind of put it together. And at this exact moment, he was still playing. So he was like, well, I can't really like run with it. I can't work with an agency. I'm repped by one. I was like, okay, that's fine. So like, well, NIL's new. Nobody I know is doing this.
Right.
So it's like, I had this idea. I don't know anyone doing this. I'm going to just figure it out.
Sure.
I always just say yes. I
Yeah.
never say no to things. I always just say yes. I'll figure it out. And
At some point, you do.
Some
but
point, though,
we're-
yeah.
in the beginning, you
yeah,
really got to be
it's-
that way. Yeah.
For sure. I was like,
Yeah.
this is, I was talking to somebody the other day. I had one of my athletes' moms ask me a question. I had no idea how to answer it. I was like, yeah. And then they were like, you might have put a little too much dip on your chip there.
Sure.
But,
Well, I think,
yeah.
and two, there's moments where there's power in saying I don't know.
Yeah.
But I'll find out and get right back with you.
100%.
You know what I mean?
And I was just on the phone with one of my guys driving over here, and I was like, I'm not going to lie to you. And he was asking about like when certain coaches leave, can you hit the portal instead of it's a head coach? I said, I'm going to be honest with you, nah, I have no idea. But I'm not going to lie to you. You know?
Yeah.
Ask compliance.
I've always even tell these therapists that I'm mentoring and training, like, it's not important that you know everything.
Yeah.
Be the person that says that's okay, saying like, like I'm not sure.
Yeah.
And even if I know, this is the extent of what I know.
Right.
And I'm okay sharing that, because some people, they even tell you to train you to be careful even about that.
Yeah.
But I like, this is the extent that I understand something, but now I got a reason to go do some research.
Sure.
And that's how I've picked up so much information, is just trying to sort out questions like that. You know, so that's a good way for you to figure out too what the needs are of these guys. And I saw that there's 21 NIL athletes.
Yeah.
Dude. That's actually, so you only started this thing how long ago?
About fully like LLC and everything and all that, like a little over a year and a half. But
ago.
2 years ago, 2.5 years ago is when I really was like, okay, we're gonna like lock down on this.
Sure. When did you acquire your first?
First athlete
obviously,
was
Kobe.
Jalen Lee. He played baseball at James Madison.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, honestly, like maybe a year ago.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that was gonna be the hardest part.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, this is gonna be the hardest part. Grabbed him. Boom. All right. Another one. Okay. Another one. Then we got like Isaiah Range. He was a basketball player at HBCU, but he had like 12,000 followers. Like, okay, there's deals here. Another one. And then the easiest part is just being resourceful.
Sure.
Being resourceful honestly saves money.
Oh, yeah.
I've learned. And if it's now some people,
Well,
you know,
that's the
sometimes
nature of
it's-
saving money.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And there's, you know, there's some things that it's better off just paying for it because it saves time.
Sure.
You know, and
And there
I've
will be
learned-
more of that as y'all expand.
that's what I was gonna say. Like as I've gotten a little further into it, I've learned I'm just gonna pay somebody to do this.
That's right.
Like I'm not gonna waste 2 hours trying to figure out this damn graphic. I can just pay somebody to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And but yeah, dude, just being resourceful at the beginning, using Instagram for everything. I've grown Instagram into like the most powerful tool.
Oh, yeah.
And I tell these kids, I'm like, dude, you can make money from Instagram. Like you can make. I built a business from Instagram. Like the things I did 2 years ago, I would have never thought I'd do it. Like the OV at Tulane last weekend, and then like I'm New Mexico's next weekend. The schools fly you out for these things, so it's like I'm not paying for anything. We're
That's
like,
dope.
never been to New Mexico, but am I going to say no?
Sure.
You know, no, I don't. And like thankfully, my main job, my marketing job, I have a lot of freedom with. But yeah, it's just like learning to be resourceful, and that's like finding the guys on Instagram and then just finding a way, okay, maybe they're not responding to me. Well, their friend follows me. Okay, I'll go through the friend. And then same thing with the transfer portal. This is where I've really hit it hard this cycle. I don't think I've gotten many people to not say no to anything. Like if I target you, there's a reason. I like taking guys from small schools to big schools. It looks good for my brand. I'm a new brand, so I don't want to take a guy from Bama who wasn't playing to downsize and then he's now, Louisiana Monroe. I'm going to take a guy from like Albany and put him at Tulane. That's a top 25 team. And just being resourceful. And if you look at my laptop, I have like 30 tabs. And one is 24/7 sports and the transfer portal. The other one's On 3 transfer portal rankings. The other one's PFF, looking at all these guys like position grades. The other one's this platform these guys created on Twitter called the Portal Report. And I'm just looking through. I spend my nights like I'm just looking at stats, looking at size, looking at speed, like basically recruiting for the schools.
Sure.
And that's how I found KC. I was like, this dude's 6'2". Like he's a DB, he's 6'2", like he's obviously fast. Found him, hit my guy at Tulane. He was like, what is it going to take for him to not take another visit? I was like, that's it. I called KC. I'm like, KC, I have Tulane. Now they signed with us, of course, first. Our athletes signed to us because I've been burned just like everybody else has been burned. But
it's a part of learning.
It is. And my mom asked me all the time, she's like, how do you know these guys are going to do this? I'm like, Mom, they're on contract. She's like, do you think the 20-year-olds care about a contract? I'm like, nah, but
The court does.
yeah, that's exactly what I said. I was like, no, but if you just bring up the contract, they're gonna make sure to get it right. But yeah, it's just being resourceful. Found all my guys that way. Found my connections. Once again, I have 46 on my spreadsheet coaching connections around the nation.
That's really
straight through
that
Instagram.
network, because when you could be a resource for those guys, and that's the way I've always tried to approach referral sources, doctors and stuff, is like, look, we're here to be a resource for you. We're not here to ask anything of you. We know what we do and the value that we deliver. We're here to say, like, how would you like to be communicated with? How often? Like, we want to do better at this exchange that we have.
Right.
And then sometimes I feel like when you exceed expectations from a business perspective, it's rare. Because not many businesses out there are really exceeding your expectations.
Right.
In fact, it's usually the opposite.
Yeah.
So I feel like if you just you pass that bar just enough, and do that enough times, then you're going to win. You're going to win.
Yeah.
So you have 28 athletes under your athlete advisement program
Yep.
with your high school age kids. Can you explain the program?
Yeah. So that program is essentially a funnel for NIL. So what we do is we take usually the best kids around the coast because I'm a coast guy. How do we go Pine Belt down? I have some in the Jackson metro area. That's just those kids come down here and play. That's how I meet them. But we take those kids and we're pretty much, it's like a big brother system. Where they're big brothers, we'll take them where they need to go. We'll go get some lunch, just talk about football, talk about baseball, whatever it is, talk about sports, have them on the podcast, help them with some social media stuff. So I'll use Chop for the big. Chop is like my little brother. I know you know Chop.
Oh,
obviously.
we know Chop. Yeah, we go back.
Chop is like my little brother. And what we did with Chop was we first met him for a podcast. He wanted to do a podcast. Get him on the podcast.
I saw it.
Then we film a workout video. Then we take him here, we take him there. We just get these guys in. And what do you need? What can we do to help you keep going? Do you need put your film pushed out? Okay, you've been talking to the Tulane coaches. They haven't offered you. Okay, I'll give them a call. Just anything that we can do to help them really. Can't really do too much financially just with high school roles and stuff like that. But it's just looking out for them, making sure they're right. I was on the phone with a kid yesterday, Jordan Stapleton. He's a running back at West Harrison. Very good. And the dead period ended yesterday for high school recruiting, so the coaches can contact them again and come to the schools and stuff. And I was like, hey, look, any coach asks you how much money you want, don't answer the question. Call me first. I don't. It's just things like that. I want you to understand. Like, don't tell them $20,000 when they were going to offer you 85. And so just call me first. Things like that. It's just, and the high school kids don't sign anything to be with us. That's just strictly off of relationship. And that's off of if they see the work we put in for them while they're in high school. When they go to college, there's nobody else they're going to trust.
Yeah. And I remember talking with Matt Paul about some of that because he really casts his net wide and he really is a resource for a lot of high school kids that just show potential. And even, these days he's got not middle school, but young kids that just show talent, potential, and then just being a resource and then being helpful for them because he really doesn't have much to gain. But and then I know in the past too, he has had situations where he's really poured into people, and then they went other directions with representation, and and so that's why I really respected Colt a lot too in their relationship because Matt isn't your everyday agent. He's out there hitting ground balls. He's making sure they're getting the work that they need to do done, and really, and it's impressive how he does that and he fills the gaps that need filling. And then seeing it work out with Colt getting that massive contract, I was like, you know what, that's the real way to do it, because I know in the past he's had some guys that signed some big deals and last minute, go to a guy that just because of their experience, but you're losing the roots that you're planting in. When you have people that care about you as a human, not just as an asset, it's like and that's what really a lot of big agents play off of the ignorance, and then also fear of like, oh well, if you don't make this move, this is like, it's all bullshit and speculation.
I saw one yesterday, a guy with a big agency, he does NIL, and he was talking about Tulane. So he represents Tulane's former quarterback who's now at Duke, got a big deal. He's getting $8 million over 2 years. Great money when you're 19 years old.
Sure.
I saw the Tulane. So Duke is coming to Tulane this year to play. And that's, hey, it's Darian's basically coming home game. Obviously Tulane wants to beat him, but I saw his agent was on Twitter talking to fans. And he was like, oh yeah, your dog shit fan base is going to see why I took him away. He was like, I have 2 clients right now entertaining Tulane. This is exactly why they're going to Memphis. On Twitter. That's great. Talking to people who like are their fan accounts. It's called like the big green guy or something.
Well, it's X now, right?
Yeah, X.
Twitter. Yeah.
And the guy's bio was like, the guy he was mad at, he's like a veteran. Like his bio was like Gulf War vet and something else. And I'm like, bro, like, did you not just like, why were you yelling at a veteran, first of all? But it's crazy. And I see that. And I went to Texas this past summer with Matt for the All-Star game and the draft. And I flew out there with him and just to meet his agency and be around the guys. And he was obviously telling me, I'm sure we know the exact situation and stuff. But yeah, I see it. I see it happen all the time. And guys, what Matt told me specifically in the car is build relationships with players. If you build a relationship, the right players are going to sit with you and they're going to stick it out. And some of these kids in my mentorship program, I'm sure they're going to go to college and they're going to sign with Young Money and APA and these big agencies, and that's fine. They're going to take 20% of your contract and they're going to screw you. And at the end of the day, they're going to be the guys on Twitter saying, oh, I'm not sending him here. You don't own anybody. You go where you want.
That's right.
I'm just going to put the options on the table.
Would you say humility is, and I think that's a good reason. I think Matt's a good resource too, because there's not a lot of people in that world that really function with humility and character. And and staying true to that, being consistent to that, I feel like always wins again. And it's like, it's not about how we win today. It's about, if you play that game, you're going to win in the long run.
Right.
And eventually, that high character stuff, you're building relationships. And I really think it's funny because you got people in the relationship game just like that. But then there you go, and that they start playing the clout game. And if you could just bypass that whole thing, because a lot of it's just the same thing with the referral market, like I said, and a lot of the way that I've seen competing PT companies approach those relationships, it's all transactional and kind of weird, where there's some form of like a kickback or something that, it's just like you're kind of signing a deal with the devil in a way, because now they're not utilizing you because you're the best resource for their patients. It's because there's something to gain,
Right.
And that competes with the patient care, which is what your focus should be, and that's the oath that doctors take. But it's when you got easy opportunities like that. But it's just the fact that when you start skirting things, it's just because they may even be legal, but it's not ethically solid, like it's not helping you. And
Right.
a lot of those people, even you'll see that get in power positions or have some influence or whatever, there's almost all the insecurities that they really have. It's just almost like it's still there. Just like you see like adults a lot of times in there. It's like, you're acting like a 12-year-old child right now, So I just think it's cool because I think that I see that humility for you is pretty easy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, we try. We try to keep those relationships tight, man.
Yeah.
I mean,
but not especially publicly, like on Twitter and stuff.
Twitter's crazy.
It's just like crazy.
I'm not going to argue with the fan base.
Yeah.
Because you just lost out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, so as far as the enterprise itself, do you ever have any vision for, like, I don't know, occupying any other spaces, or you're just kind of seeing how it unfolds?
Yeah. So we started it was just brick athletes. And then I was like, let's throw the word enterprise in there. You can umbrella other things under that, right? And run some verticals under it. There's a lot of stuff like to be desired. It's just where I see it fit, like, first thing, we're in the process of getting a business development person under us, right? So that way I'm not having to worry about marketing deals for our guys.
Sure.
Yeah,
I'd imagine that's the meat and potatoes, huh? Like connecting them with actual.
It's the easiest thing. It's not the easiest thing. It's the easiest thing for the athletes to really want to come on board with us. Is the hardest thing to pitch, because a lot of times, you own a business, it's hard. There's got to be an ROI for a business to pitch, put some money out usually. And it's just trying to build campaigns that not only fit the athlete, that compliance is cool with too, because you have to go through compliance at each school. You can't do some things that, may be against a sponsor, right? LSU's a Marucci school for baseball, so we can't get an LSU baseball player and have him in a Rawlings ad.
Right.
It's just things like that. There's a lot of red tape in college athletics, but there's a lot of freedom. I don't even remember what you asked me.
No. I mean, I was just the enterprise itself.
What we want under it.
Yeah, and in a way, like, I guess, because it seems like everything you really get into, it's just seeing like a niche and then a way that you can actually just build off your relationships and do more with them. Yeah,
we currently do marketing for a bunch of businesses. So we were going to turn it into like a brick marketing company as well, and that wasn't going to be anything related to sports. I was just going to be outsourced marketing. We get the contract out. Subcontracted pretty much, just like in my brother-in-law owns a construction business, and that's what he does. You know, we can subcontract all day. We have marketing. We have a lot of people ask us if we're getting into like clothes at all, apparel, any type of stuff. Maybe, I have trucker hats. You have to be my athlete to really get one. It's the easiest way to go about it. I don't want to sell any hats right now. I don't want to have to worry about that in taxes, to be real. I'm not trying to worry about sales or anything like that right now. I'm really about just building the company and building relationships. Plenty of things I want to do. I'm very, aspirational. There's a lot that I see in my future. Personally, I think about it a lot too. For me, we get these guys set. I stuff 3 guys in the transfer portal that aren't set anywhere. They all have offers. They don't know where they're going. School starts next week for a lot of places, so for example, Nev Brown's the guy going to New Mexico this weekend. He's been at Alabama A&M and HBCU, small school, and we're going to New Mexico. He's got New Mexico State, Middle Tennessee State, La Tech. So he's got some interest, but it's like we got to get that nailed down. On the creative side, we're looking for a creative person to have under Josh. We just found somebody. I talked to him on the phone today who's going to take over our graphics for us. So really learning to delegate. I mean, I'm young, so I've always been the employee my whole life, pretty much. And like the funny part about being the employee is when I was in college, I was emailing a bunch of agents looking for like, I don't care. I was like unpaid internship, unpaid assistant. I don't care. Like I just want to do something. Nobody hired me. Nobody got back to me. So I was like, all right, screw it. I'm gonna hire myself.
Sure. That's kind of similar for me too, in a way.
Yeah. It's just, I was like, nobody wants it. Dude, if somebody reached out to me, it's like, oh, yo, you don't even have to pay me. I'm probably like, no brainer.
I'm looking for that person all the time.
Yeah.
Man.
Like, I don't care what your skills are. There's something I can tell you to do, you know?
For sure.
Like comment on Instagram posts. Like, that's cool, you know? But like, there's so much I want to do, but it's hard because every day I have a list, right? So I do marketing for these certain businesses, and then I do marketing for like another business on my own, and then I have Brick that I run. Yeah. And I'm like, there's so many hours in a day at 25 years old. Like, I also want to enjoy myself a little bit still.
Are you falling behind right now just being here?
No. No, not at all. This was on I carry a legal pad in my backpack everywhere I go, and this was on my legal pad.
Good.
I don't write daily plans. I usually just write like, okay, what do I need to get done here in the next couple of days?
Sure, yeah.
You know.
I actually had to get a desk calendar to where I can like look
the one
at
over there. Yeah. I have one of those in my office too. But yeah, there's a lot I want to do. It's just really nailing it down. Podcast is great. We have a media side. I need more people that can go film videos. So that's where Josh is looking for people. I don't want to have to go to high school football games on Friday. I'll be honest. And I tell our guys that I don't want to be at a high school football game Friday night. I want to be at dinner with my girlfriend.
Sure.
And so if we can find high school kids or something, you want to go stand on the sideline at your football game and you take videos from the stands on Instagram. Here's a camera. Go. Right. You don't edit the clips. Send them to Josh. He'll edit them. And if you want to edit, we'll teach you how. Anything like that. We're so open to it. We have people call us with ideas all the time. Like I'm just so open to anything really.
You know, with like AI too, have you thought at all about how you can integrate that?
I use AI a lot for written materials,
right.
Like briefs, proposals, Instagram captions. I will say every Instagram caption I ever write on my own Instagram or Break is straight from me, and I write everything in all caps.
Right, I see that.
I only type in all caps.
Well, I remember whenever we were texting, I was like, it's funny, you set up your text like an Instagram post.
Yeah. I will put like dashes. Yeah. Like I will be like, hey, dash. Like there's like I don't know what it is. I use all caps for everything. My caps lock on my laptop stays on. Josh makes fun of me for it all the time.
Well, it stands out a little bit more.
I agree. And I remember always growing up seeing Cam Newton's captions. He used like a damn accent mark on every letter. And I was like, I know that's Cam Newton though. So I was like, I'm just going to go all caps. And that way, some people are like, oh, it feels like you're yelling at me. I'm like, that's fine. Get the message.
I'm just trying to get my point across.
Yeah, exactly. But it's pretty cool. I don't have like super laid out plans. I know people ask me that all the time. My bosses actually ask me that too. They're like,
they're probably
they're big business guys, so they're like, what is your like 5-year plan? I'm like, dude, I didn't even have a 2-year plan. I didn't have a plan. I wrote in my phone notes.
You know what they're trying to say, or like they're trying to figure out because in a way too, like it's a lot of times too, that's the hardest part of like figuring out when you go full time and when that makes sense and when you have to like jump off the cliff officially. Because there was a point in time I had to kind of do that, let go of like a secure income and insurance and all this stuff, and all of a sudden like it's all me now.
I think about that a lot too, and I'm like, I don't know. I've always been somebody who's like, I've tried to have multiple streams of income, and I know I'm young, but like even right now, like 3 is every year I need to have 3. Like that's my thing. I want 3. That way if something happens to one, you never know what can happen. Like I'm okay. I've always heard that. My dad's always told me like find multiple if you can, like just no matter what it is, a couple $100 a month. Hey, that's your car payment. Don't even think about it. So yeah, I mean,
but then there is the thing too, where if you think about when you could like focus your energy and time into more like of a one maybe 2 directions even, like the quality of your ability to kind of just push into those lanes.
And I've struggled with that too. Like, so when I worked for the Shuckers, like that's when I first started building brick. Dude, I'll be honest, I didn't care. I was at work, I wasn't thinking about it. I had my laptop open, like,
Yeah.
they walk by my cubicle, it's like shut, you know? and like I realized that, like, it's like I'm pouring all of my effort into one thing. It's so hard for me to focus on this and that. And I have a meeting. I don't even know what I'm meeting about today because I've been thinking about this athlete that I'm going to call. Like, I used to go in the copy room because the copy room was away from everyone and make these phone calls to these athletes and these brands and these schools. And I'm like, I need to step away from that. So my boss is now, like I said, it's so free. Like, I don't have a time to be at work. I have an office. They love Brick. So they've been big supporters. I got hired because of the work we did with Brick and, you know, they asked us, they were like, did you guys have a budget? I was like, dude, we had no budget. Like, we spent $0 at first. And our podcast is very symbolic of that too. If you notice, our first one, he had like a Rode, like pretty much shotgun mic from a camera. And I bought a $50 mic. Like, okay. And then like 5 episodes later, we have 2 mics. A couple episodes later, we have 2 mic stands. All of a sudden, like we have 3 mic stands. Like, and the pod's been very symbolic of like our business growth because we started with nothing, no follow. We started Instagram with 0 followers. Like I called it like Brick. Like, it was like Brick with like 7Ks and a bunch of numbers when I was in college because I was like, I don't know what this is going to be, but it's going to be something. Changed the name, started with 0 followers. We grow every day. My Instagram's been growing a lot because of that as well. But that's a referral program pretty much too. Like, I get one athlete this deal. 20 of his friends want to rock now. Now I got to sift through the bullshit. But yeah, I mean, it's hard for me to think of plans sometimes. You know, I mean, my mom asked me, my dad asked me, I'm like, I don't know. They're just like, well, we're proud of you. You know, because it's like 2 years ago when I wrote in my phone notes, I thought I was going to strictly do NIL. We now have a podcast. That's been one of the quickest growing things we have. I mean, you guys will see us like, you know, podcasts grow. I mean, you know, you work in media and stuff too, but dude, I mean, your Instagram's big. Like, our podcast is massive. Like, subscribers wise, we're sitting around 500. That's not even the part, but it's like the influence you have on the local kids here is insane. Like, I go to a Biloxi basketball game and they're like, oh, what's up? You're the Brick guy. I'm like, how do you know me? You know, like, I'm at a gas station and it's like soccer player drives up. He's like, I saw you on my friend's podcast. I was like, okay, so now we're going to take this model we did on the coast and we're going to do it in Hattiesburg and we're going to do it in Jackson and we're going to do it in Louisiana and we're going to do it in Alabama. And one of my best friends is Wyatt Davis. He's a quarterback coach, 601 elite quarterback. I don't know if you've seen it, but really good friend of mine. And he was telling me, he was like, that's what I did with coaching. You know, he was like, I'm a private quarterback coach. College coaches want me to be the QB coach all the time. I say, no, I work for myself. He said, he's from, I can't even remember, some PRC. Yes. They were like the Blue Devils or something, like super small school. And he was like, I trained one quarterback. His friend, I trained another quarterback. Now Wyatt has the whole state and he has all these guys at these big time schools that he trains. And I was like, okay, so I'm just going to take that. And we've had the podcast for like 8 months. We filmed one episode in March or April, put it out, then didn't put another one out for 2 more months. When we came in here to see you guys the first time, I think we had like 10 episodes. You know, like, dude, we had no idea what we were doing. It started as a joke. Josh wanted to produce
What was
a show.
funny is that when I wanted to meet with y'all that first time, it was in a way, that was whenever I was like, I think that's wherever I was like, I think like I just need to meet with them because I think there was some things like I feel like I have a vision for what they can do with this in a way where I just wanted to be like kind of a resource.
Yeah, 100%.
But also, you know, like from what I've done with Neolife, I think about what I did with as a performance coach is and it all started with Alan Belcher back almost 4 years ago now, with him wanting to make a resurgence. But it was also a point in my life where I wasn't in good shape. I wasn't just on the peak of my personal life and what I needed to be doing for my own health and just to be proud of myself and this and that. So it was a good timing because we were both kind of at a point where we needed like a mission, let's say. But what I did with that is I was like, you know what, I'm just going to put on my white belt. Because even though I was a performance coach and I was working with athletes and getting great results before I went into school, I was like, I don't want to assume that any credibility I've built in any of these lanes is going to speak for me in this thing. Because I didn't do any personal branding, and that's when I started my Instagram page, and I'm still not monetized. Like because I don't know I don't really know what I want to do with it. And obviously it's not my primary source of income. So anything I do with it is kind of it's in addition to, which is something I want to do, but I just don't want to get stuck in a way of monetizing where I feel like a lot of people in my industry go about it. I want to be open to the extent that my time is valuable,
Yeah.
you know, and I've worked hard to kind of create some time and freedom and do what I want to do. And I've spent 10 years getting to that point. So it's interesting because I'm in it's almost like a new startup for me, because it's also cash-based services. It's not insurance reimbursed services. And then what I've learned over all these years now, my ability to apply it, it's cool because I feel like my confidence and way I can come into it is so high because I did that 4 years ago and was like, just spent so much time trying to learn and understand things. And instead of trying to prove what I know, just commit to knowing more and knowing more and knowing more. And so even now, where I feel like I have more direction and weight and resources and ideas about how I could push and monetize and things like that, it's still the same game. It's relationships and outcomes. So I'm like, if you produce, ultimately everything comes together, just like what you're saying with Wyatt. You know, if you're able to really create results with your work, regardless of who you're working with, it's going to scale.
Yeah.
You know. So I think that's dope. Yeah. yeah. It's battery life. But that's kind of, it's cool because that's how I started from the ground and built my own treatment tables and just saved this, made it is the risk is always tough to think about. So I think that's kind of what I recognize and I appreciate. And so I really appreciate you coming on, man. And us getting to chill and visit and we'll do it again for sure.
Absolutely. We definitely do, man. I appreciate you guys. You guys do good work. So everything I see on Instagram is great, man. Just want to tell you that. No, you guys do a great job.
And Batchy, this is kind of cool because he started in finance. So he has accounting degree, but like, well, my brother-in-law. So it's a great way for him to go ahead and us to use his background in education, let him kind of come in and he can do our bookkeeping and he's worked into our taxes but in a way I could tell there was just something. It was like there was something in him that wasn't alive. Yeah. And it was like it almost bothered me to see it because I'm like, and when we started doing all this with Alan, it was like, let's just come out there and film and we'll just, we're out there for an hour and a half, 2 hours. You just film what's going on and just work on capturing some of the content and just letting it be authentic because I really would rather, because for instance, like the content's almost better if I'm just you ask me a question and I can answer it for you, or you have a problem and then we could talk about that problem and how we could solve it. But just me sitting here scripted trying to talk about a certain thing, it's like I can do that and I've gotten better at it, but especially in the beginning, I'm like, just let me be me and do what I normally do and let's just film it. And but over time now he's gotten into, so each piece, it was like, then he pick up the editing. And then once we got into this, it's like, look, you got to be a branding company no matter what you are. You got to be a marketing or a media company into yourself. And I feel like I think any scalable or franchisable type situation, you got to look at it like that, or else the narrative you're leaving in other people's hands to create it.
100%.
And then I was like, you know what? He would come alive when it comes to editing.
Oh, I'm alive.
Oh yeah,
I am awake. I am alive.
Yeah. I mean, look at him. Look at him. He looks like he belongs.
No, I love the producer set too. Like on the camera and everything, it looks so good. It reminds me of a show I used to watch. I don't know if you ever watched the Dan Le Batard show, the sports show. That was like the first show I ever watched where the producers would talk. And I was like, "Who's that, Dad?" He's like, "Oh, that's the producer." And I'm like, "That's the coolest look, man. It looks great."
Oh yeah.
Like you have multiple cuts. It's awesome, and it's a way to make you become a part of it too. Like I know sometimes with us, like Josh, like I feel bad because he'll just sit there. Sometimes.
And I feel like you make effort to try to always, which is great, is like give him the space to. Yeah, that's 100%. Awesome.
And he's like the thing about Josh where we work well together is I don't think he wants to be in front of the camera at all, like at all. I love it.
Yeah.
Like sure, why not? And he's like, nope. I'm good. He's got his little camera case. He rolls around everywhere, and he sets it up, and he does a great job at everything we do.
That's so awesome.
Yeah, and I know, like between both of us, man, every day for like 2 years, there can be a little burnout and disagreements, and we have that, and it's understandable. But it's like, it's one of my brothers, and I know they always say don't go into business with some friends and family sometimes, but it's worked.
That's right.
It's worked for us
when you complement each other's strengths.
Absolutely.
And I think being honest about it and then cover up each other's weaknesses might be as important as covering each other, from the strengths perspective. But what's been cool though is it's even like my vision for what I wanted all this to be. I really thought about it is like, this is also his first chance to almost like, I was able to pull him out of all the financial responsibilities because it's like, he didn't even know how bogged down he was there's a lot. I mean, we're not a small operation and there's a lot of responsibility with that. So it was almost like once I was able to pull that back and just let him dive into the media and then also develop, because now he's becoming a producer.
That's sweet.
And so this is like, but this part I feel like is the easiest transition, honestly. Like it's almost like more natural and just easy for him.
Yeah.
It's a great progression.
I would agree with that.
Yeah.
100%.
But it's like 4 years. Think about life's in like 3-year cycles, right? So your startup phase is really technically like a 3-year phase. It's a good way to think about it. And most of the time they say like you really want to be profitable by your 3rd year.
Yeah.
But I'm more like you in the fact that like I was really trying to be profitable after my 1st year and then really trying to just think of it in terms of growth where you just kind of break the mold and you try to think, well, by the time I get to my 3rd year, this thing's going to be something different. And then, but getting to see like the season I went through and then now seeing how it's transitioning and I'm like, look at you, bro. Like this is your studio. Like this is what we've manifested,
awesome. 100%.
Yeah. And then you could see like in the quality of the stuff, it just gets his experience is just starting to show more and more.
Right.
So I want to make sure we give Batch the props he deserves.
I appreciate that. I'm thankful and blessed for all the opportunities you've given me. And Zach, I've learned a lot about you just through this podcast. And it's like, you have so much I could learn from. Yeah. And we could feed off each other really well, I think. For sure.
No, absolutely, man.
Well, look, we'll continue the conversation.
For sure.
And man, this was a great time. Dude.
Yeah. No, thank you guys very much. I appreciate it.
Yeah, glad you came on.
Yeah.
And then with that, the Interdimensional Gummy Bear, we are going to sign out. And I bid you all a good day, good night.
See you on the next one.
Yeah. See you on the